Do you ever feel like you're working out consistently, you're tracking everything, and the weights aren't going up or are maybe going down? Well, that's called a workout plateau. We're going to talk about why that occurs and how to work through it. So first off, what is a workout plateau? A workout plateau is when you are continuously working out, but you are finding that whatever metrics that you're tracking aren't going up. So either your strength isn't increasing, your reps or weight isn't increasing, maybe in a endurance sport, your times aren't going down or you can't go a longer distance. All of these would be considered workout plateaus. They can occur in any field of sport or any endeavor that's physical activity based. And so what we can do in order to try and stop this from happening is going to be a couple things. But first off, I want to talk about why workout plateaus happen. They can happen for a myriad of reasons. However, one of the main reasons is that what you're doing in the gym or in your running or training in general isn't going to be pushing you to a point where your body needs to adapt. Other reasons could be that your sleep is off, or your nutrition is off, your hydration is off, maybe your stress levels are too high, or your hormones are out of whack. These are all reasons that workout plateaus can happen. And so kind of breaking down and finding the exact reasons why your workout plateaus are happening can be helpful in order to get you to see better growth or even more growth than you were seeing prior, because you're actually taking advantage of all of these variables that play into performance and health instead of maybe just not thinking about them like you were before. So a couple ways to break out of your workout plateau would be to change your routine. This can be beneficial because if you're doing something and you're stagnating on it, maybe the routine is something that you either don't find joy in anymore and so you're not pushing as much, or maybe the routine that you're doing isn't as optimal for the goals that you're actually looking for. And so changing that could be helpful in order to break through plateaus. The second way would be to make sure that you're actually applying progressive overload. So the concept of progressive overload is where in your training you are going to wanting to be increase either the weight, the sets, decrease the rest time in between, or a myriad of those things combined into one. So an example of that within hypertrophy training would be if the weight doesn't go up, but I went from 10 reps to 11 reps on my set, that would be progressive overload. Another example would be for strength. If I'm doing 200 pounds on a bench press and then I up it to 205 or 210, then I do the same amount of reps, that's also going to be an increase. Another thing could be within endurance training. If I'm running a 5-minute mile and my heart rate goes down 5 beats per minute comparative to the last time I ran it, that is going to be beneficial. That's going to be progressive overload. So trying to find ways to track your progress and increase it over time and measuring those in order to push yourself is going to be the best way. So tracking your progressive overload is going to be a great way to break through your plateaus. The third way here is focusing on recovery or managing your stress. I have made a video completely talking about sleep before, so if you want to look at that, be sure to check that out, as that is going to play into your recovery. However, other things like stress management is important. The sleep video also talks a little bit about that, so if you wanted to, again, watch that in order to get the information from that, that's going to be great. However, managing those things is very important. If you aren't sleeping well, you aren't recovering well, and you're not going to be able to have as much energy put forth into your workout. Same thing with stress. If you're stressed, your sleep's going to get worse. But on top of that, you might have other things on your mind when you're going into your training, and so you might not be focusing as much on your training as you might be thinking about other things going on in your life. Do I understand that all these variables can't be controlled? Sure. If you have a young child, that's a stressor that you can't just throw out the window in a literal or metaphorical sense, right? So having to manage the stressors that you have in your life is going to be difficult if they aren't things that you can control. However, trying to manage them the best you can is what you can do. So I don't want people coming at me and saying, you don't have kids, it's different when you have kids, or like I work 2 jobs, I work overnight shifts. I understand that your situation is different than mine. Everybody's situation is different. So manage it to the best of your ability. And then the final point here is going to be trying different styles of training. Now, this is a little bit different than my first point that was changing your routine, because different styles of training would be either, instead of changing the exercises, so instead of maybe doing a, dumbbell bench press, I would be doing like a barbell bench press. Doing different styles of training would be something like if I went from doing, my endurance training or my aerobic training was, the treadmill, maybe I go to swimming or something like that. It's completely changing what you're doing. Or, instead of my training being a power building, so a strength and hypertrophy focus, maybe I go just into powerlifting and I want to only do strength, or vice versa, I only go into bodybuilding, I don't want to focus on strength anymore. That could be another way to break through plateaus, and then at a later date you could come back to what you were doing before. And the final big point here is going to be over nutrition for breaking through your plateaus. I've talked about the workouts themselves and the stress and sleep management that goes into your training, but nutrition is very important as well. So managing that or having a good nutrition plan is going to be vital in not only fueling your workouts, as maybe that's just the issue. You can't break through the plateau because you're not fueling your workouts well, or you're not fueling yourself after well enough so that you're recovering from those workouts in order to perform again, or even put on muscle if that's your focus. So an example of that would be if I have a protein goal of 180 grams per day and I'm only getting 140, 160, that might be the difference if I up it a little bit in order to break through that plateau. Especially if you're an experienced lifter or an experienced athlete, those small little changes are small, but they can make a huge difference when everything else is in check. So if that's the final thing you've gone through this list and that's the area that you want to work on because it's maybe the one thing that you need to work on, definitely focus on nutrition. This can be either through working with a coach like someone like me who helps you make plans, or figuring out yourself, working with a dietitian or your family doctor. Those can be all methods that you can do in order to increase your nutrition. However, for the most part, blanket statement here would be if you're an athlete trying to get around 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight, or your goal weight if you're in a weight loss phase, for protein is going to be beneficial. Prioritizing mainly whole foods, especially if you're going to be, lacking your vegetable and fruit intake, you definitely want to up that, as those are going to be very helpful in your micronutrients. As macronutrients are great, micronutrients are also important, and so you have to focus on those as well. Also understanding when to prioritize your fats, proteins, and carbs. Your macronutrients aren't something you should probably just equally split throughout the day. There is timing for them around your workouts or around other times of the day that would be more beneficial in order to prioritize some over the others. So if you want more information on that, let me know. Otherwise, I've posted blogs about it before, so just go to my website, scroll all the way down to the bottom. If you click on the search bar and just type in fats, carbs, or protein, there should be many blog posts that pop up that you can read all about it. And in conclusion here, I just wanted to say that plateaus are annoying. They're not fun. However, they are a sign that you are growing because your body has been adapting up until that point. And so now it's saying to you, what can we do in order to fuel us or prepare us to continue growing? That's really what it's saying. So this is a time for you to lock in on all the other things other than just your training, or maybe your training too, and then you will continue to grow. So if you have any questions or comments or sticking points, leave them in the comments below and I can talk to you about them, or other people can answer them as well. And just know that it's not something that's going to last forever. You figure out the things in the video that I've talked about, you'll grow.